All right, so hey everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Mike Kenny. I'm the Executive Director for Warriors Ascent. And this is now webinar 2. So we're super excited. You know, this is our community forum, the Warriors Ascent Community Forum. And we've got none other than Kerry Stewart coming to us from Colorado, from snowy and cold Colorado. And he is going to talk to us about healthy boundaries. So very apropos, very timely, especially with everybody now socially isolated with their, with their families and, stuff like that. I'm sure everyone is getting on each other's nerves, and establishing some healthy boundaries is probably more important now than it's ever been in the past. But it's going to be another great topic, another great, dare I say, discussion. It's going to be, minimal discussion, but, we'll see what we can do, simply because with all those people, it's just going to be, crazy. But we'll try to open it up to everyone and at least kind of get a sense as to how people are doing. We've already got some good chat room action going, so that's fantastic too. Again, as I'd mentioned, some ground rules. I think you can unmute yourselves. I'll set it to where, you're unmuted, and then boom, you can unmute yourself. If somebody wants to, they've got a really pressing question. Otherwise, that, will be kind of, I'll say, a little bit cumbersome. Raise your hand with that hand icon. Similarly, we can address that and then field any questions. But just as important is the chat room, the questions and things like that. We'll do a poll in the beginning, and then there'll be a survey at the end, so we want to keep you all engaged, and we want this thing to be very valuable. So with that, I'm going to hand the con over to Kerry and let him do his magic. So we're super happy you're all here. We've got 17 now, and I think more and more people are going to come on board. So, all right.
Awesome. So can everybody see my screen as well? Hey, Mike, can you go ahead and unmute everybody?
Yes, I've done that. So everyone should have the ability to unmute yourself. So at least a couple people give it a try.
Perfect.
So
yeah.
Amy Elliott has.
Yeah. Awesome. Perfect. Perfect. So here's what I'd like for you guys to do is mute yourself if you have any background noise. If there's anything that's going to kind of disturb the whole group, mute yourself. You should have the ability to unmute yourself. And then if I'm going to go through and I'm going to ask some journaling questions. So if you haven't grabbed a pen or a paper, or you can't do this digitally, go grab yourself a journal or a pen or a paper. But what here we go.
You now have control.
Well, yeah, and then it went away. Give me 1 second. Okay, so perfect. So I definitely want some discussion at some point, but what we're going to do is, before we have the discussion, I'm going to just ask you to raise your hands, and then that way I can kind of call on you. There is a delay from the time that I actually receive it. So when you ask a question or you put your hand up, it's not instantaneous on my end. It does take a minute for me to actually receive that information. All right. So we're going to talk about creating mindfulness with healthy boundaries, right? So this is a topic that still a lot of times we get confused and we need a lot of help, right? It's a lot of things that, and it's one of those topics that we always have to work on, right? So is everybody kind of clear with the ground rules? If you want to just go ahead and just type in yes, just so you can test it out and make sure the chat features work. All right. Perfect. Okay. So, all right. So feel free to ask questions at any point. And there's, like I said, there might be just a little bit of a delay, but if you have a question that comes up and you want to ask it, go ahead. Just realize it's going to take me just a second to get there. All right. So once again, let's get started. So this is just kind of like an overview. Are you struggling to find balance professionally and personally? And so boundaries truly are everything in your life on all aspects. And getting healthy boundaries are going to help you on so many different levels. Tonight is going to be a lot of journaling. And I will let you know that normally during this talk, I have you team up with another person. So tonight, you're just going to have to be that other person and kind of listen to yourself. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So I will say one other thing. I'm in a house with 8 people and 4 dogs. So there may be dogs or other people or other things that occur during this meeting as well. All right? Just so you
Kerry,
know.
let me just
Yeah.
interject very briefly, and this will probably be the first and last.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a poll that may get at exactly what you're asking here. So the first poll: have you established firm boundaries between work and family life? Do you want me to administer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So it'll launch the poll, and just like last time, what I'll do is I'll read the answers. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So 32%. And again, guys, gals, it's anonymous. I can't see what your answers are. I can't see personally. I can see what the roll-up is. So don't feel like, oh my God,
He's gonna
I
see.
don't want anyone to know that, I don't have boundaries or I've got too many boundaries. So everyone just participate. The more the merrier, and it'll get us a good sense of that.
We're almost there.
Almost there. 84. So for the sake of brevity, we'll go with this. So what we've got: if you establish firm boundaries between work and family life, 6% have said always, once work is over, I'm focused on myself and family. So very few. 50%, that's not bad. 53% now says usually, a pretty good balance. 35% lesser says seldom, and 6% say never. I'm never able to turn work off. So that's good. I would say, usually it seems people have, they establish those boundaries between work life and family life. So that's great. So I'm going to close that poll. And then the last one I'll launch. Do you establish firm boundaries between you and those that bring you stress and anxiety? And this will be my last one.
Yeah.
All right, we're at 75%. Let's get a few more. All right. So here's the roll up. You establish firm boundaries between you and those that bring you stress and anxiety, whether that's your boss, a difficult coworker, a family member, a friend, whomever. 6% say yes, no problem. 56, the majority, say usually, but sometimes it's really difficult, and I get it. And 38% say seldom, if ever. So with that, I'll close out that poll, and Kerry, it's all yours.
Awesome. All right, so usually the next step is when we have 2 people together or 3 and they get to share their story. So I'm going to give you an opportunity not to verbally do it, but to write down your story for 2 minutes. So if you were to tell your story or your life or your journey or where you're at today, I want you to go ahead and start right now and just write it down. Write down the highlights and tell your story. You got another minute, just under. So just continue to tell your story. Write it down. Your adventures, maybe a little bio. You got 10 more seconds. All right. So my question for you, when you tell your story to yourself today, or when you tell your story to anybody in your life, your journey, where you're at today, do you play the role of a victim or do you play the role of a hero? Do you tell your story in such a way that you feel like you have been transformed, that you are no longer playing that role of victim, that you actually begin to understand where you're at in your situation? All right. William, I'm just going to mute you for a second. So if you need to talk, just raise your hand, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. I was just getting a little feedback there. So through this journey, through this process, especially through the week long of those people that have been through Warriors Ascent, you come in a Monday, and by the time Friday rolls around, you truly have been transformed. You truly begin to understand what that means to begin to live that life as a warrior, as to kind of forge your own path, as to create your own destiny, to follow your dreams, your goals, and your visions, right? So the talk we did on Monday was about self-care, and this kind of goes to the next level of that. So healthy boundaries are going to help you with all of that. It's going to help you begin to understand, why are you playing the role of a victim, or why are you playing the role of a hero or a warrior, however you want to look at it. So I want to let you know today's theme in yoga, if anybody saw my yoga class this morning, was about vulnerability. And vulnerability is one of the biggest keys that allows you to truly begin to transform. It allows you to be raw. It allows you to be authentic. It allows you to be genuine and real. You don't have to put on a facade. You don't have to be fake. You don't have to pretend. When you become truly vulnerable on all levels, on all aspects, you can begin to truly love yourself for who you are. You can begin to accept yourself for who you are. And so there's none of these games that you're having to play, or none of these dialogues that you're having to say. All right? Being vulnerable really, really allows you to be the hero and not be the victim. So one of the things that's very important is the dialogue or the conversation that you have with yourself, as well as with others. So one of the things that I will say is, anything that's a major red flag within yourself, anything that you're really begin to struggle with yourself, or any relationship, you do not want to wait. You want to have that conversation first. So you do not want to procrastinate, because it only begins to delay the healing process. So as we go through this tonight, and you begin to question and begin to wonder, begin to think about the things in your mind that come up in your story. So when you told your story to yourself just a few minutes ago, how did you victimize yourself? What is it that you actually didn't be accountable for? What is it in your life that you really can begin to start transitioning into that warrior, into that hero? And those are the conversations, as you look back at your story that you just wrote, that you just highlighted, that you really need to begin to transform. These dogs will want to go out in about 10 minutes, so they'll probably go crazy. All right. Seeing some comments in here. So I won't mention your name, but if it's a question, I'll definitely just ask the question so we have it on the recording. All right. So another key component to this is the relationship you have with others is a direct relationship you have with yourself. So if you feel like bitterness, or you feel resentful, right, towards other people, a lot of times that is because you feel that way towards yourself. When you begin to love and accept yourself unconditionally, then you can begin to love and accept others unconditionally. When you begin to respect yourself, then you can begin to respect others. So it's one of those opportunities for true transformation and true growth. And so realize that a lot of times when you're saying or you're behaving or you're doing certain behaviors towards others, that comes from within yourself, right? That is how you're perceiving and seeing yourself. So when you begin to respect others and love others at a whole different level, it's because you can love and accept yourself for who you are, right? So allow yourself to find forgiveness today for everything that's going on in your past. Allow yourself to begin to find faith and hope in yourself, and then you're going to be able to find it within your community, within those people that you may not have as much respect or not as much love that you really feel like you need. All right. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to ask this throughout this talk tonight. Nobody's hand is up, so there's nothing audible, but if you have any questions, feel free to write those down. All right. So here's your next journaling question. And I want you to write this down on a piece of paper or your journal, but I also want you to write it down within this question if you're comfortable. So I want to know what in your life creates stress and why. So this is me flying over, oh my goodness, down in Colorado Springs. I forgot what it's called right now. But a lot of times we're afraid of heights. A lot of times we're afraid of failure, right? So take about the next minute here and journal what creates stress, but then also get down to the why. Why is it that you might have a fear of heights? Or why is it you might have a fear of dying or whatever it may be? And then share with us. And then share the why. Why is that, whatever it is that creates stress, why does that create the stress in your life? You got about another 30 seconds. And then I'd like for some people to start typing in there as well. Yeah. When you start sharing with one another, then it opens up a whole different dialogue, because then it allows other people to understand, and it also will spark some things in their life that they may not have even thought or even realized that they had a fear that they're not facing. So it's important to begin to share those. So I got a question here. It says, is being vulnerable to be kept internally or shared? Sharing can show some weakness or create a stigma in oneself. So I'm going to tell you that, once again, that goes along with a healthy boundary. So share what you feel like you can share, but it's very important that if you have a relationship with somebody, that you're very vulnerable with them and that you have an open dialogue with those people, right? The more vulnerable you become through this journey, the more raw, the more authentic, and the more vulnerable you'll be with others. It's not like going in and sharing your whole entire story with people, but allowing yourself to be vulnerable around other people allows them to open up to you and allows a deeper connection. When you have a barrier or a wall or something built up between you and somebody else, then you can't be as vulnerable. So that's one of the biggest keys. So since you asked that question, I'm going to go and step into forgiveness for just a minute, because if you have bitterness or hate or resentment built up, then it's really tough for you to continue on. Once you tear down that wall and you have forgiveness, then it sheds a whole nother light. It allows you and that person to have a deeper connection and respect and honor and pride for one another. So one of the true keys to a relationship is forgiveness. And I'm going to talk more in depth about that. I think it's next Wednesday when we do turning conflict into intimacy. So I'm going to go through and read some of these. But if that wasn't clear enough, just ask the question maybe later and we can go through it. All right. So somebody said electronics, and then they said it's because they don't know it well enough. Or it's just, I guess, the daily stress that they have. So they have a fear that their son, they're not doing enough for the right things as a parent or as much as they deserve. And I completely understand that. My kids are grown and I still feel like a lot of times that I haven't done enough. So that's a really good, I really understand that and relate to that. It's stressful for me to be self-content. Okay, we can talk about that as well. And then fear of being a failure because I'm no longer working as a paramedic or firefighter. So on that note, I do want to say that like I'll always say when I do the health and wellness that your weight does not define you, but that title that you had at that point doesn't define you. So don't see yourself as a failure because you couldn't do a certain job any longer, right? I mean, that was a stigma that I carried a long time with the military. I was medically discharged, right? I thought I was going to stay and go until I was retired. So allowing yourself to be okay with where you're at today, right? Allow yourself to release your attachments to success and then release your attachments to failure to where you can just be in this moment, okay? Not having a peaceful environment that creates stress for me, loud kids, etc. Oh yeah, I understand. I'm in a house with, well, my son-in-law, my 2 daughters, and my grandkids. So I completely understand. Others not seeing my value or heart. So we're going to talk about that more on the turning conflict into intimacy, but there's a key point that I will talk about in that talk. So I think if you can come back on that talk, that we're going to go more into that fear that you had. And then failure, deadliness, and disappointing, especially others, which is really the bottom lines down to failure. I'm terrified of the punishment that comes with disappointing others. Yeah, you're your own worst critic. I can see that. And that's not always physical. It can be verbal expression. To be honest, this doesn't happen much in the present, but it was consistent growing up. And I struggle to separate my present reflections and fear of the punishment of failure from the current reality. Sick kids also create stress. Oh yeah, I understand that because I can't control it. And I know all too well that even at first world country, good insurance and healthcare, you can still lose a child. Yeah, that's definitely, yeah, I understand that. Somebody's struggling because of support or their fear is no support from their wife. And then somebody, Mike, did you see this last chat here?
Yeah, see here's the thing, guys, as I'm toying with this in a Truth in Lending, I'm still getting used to this GoToWebinar capability. I've done some rehearsals as best I can, but there's questions, that can be answered to the group, posed to the group, or even then private. But there is also a chat room, for, if people just want to have an ongoing dialogue. So, I don't know what the best format for everyone is. So we've got Bailey is saying, is there a reason I'm unable to access the chat? I think there's some confusion. People are posing individual questions to the group and to Carrie really in specific, that we're then looking at and fielding. If
I guess let me see
that chat function, we could do that too.
Yeah, Bailey, I'm gonna unmute you if you want to talk for, oh, you have yourself muted. So Bailey, what we're in, there should be just like a little chat box with 3 little dots if you're on your computer, and you should see it. So it's actually the questions is what we're going through. So you might see separate tabs for like audio, questions, and things in there. Was my dog just humping the other dog on this video?
I wasn't even paying attention to that.
Yeah, my wife's like healthy boundaries. So I guess what I want to talk about something that I think may kind of help with some of these people and their stress and everything that's occurring. So years ago, I would go to San Francisco to go camping. People probably think I'm crazy, but I'd load up all my camping gear and I'd cross over the bridge and go into Moore Woods, and there's this place called Kirby Cove. And it's completely, totally primitive. So you have to bring in your own water and everything. And I would go into Trader Joe's in there, And it was, you know, they have small aisles and very small carts. And one of the things that I realized the first day there is that instead of, when you go by somebody, instead of them saying, excuse me, they would say, thank you. Thank you for, you know, giving them space and you giving them space. But it wasn't, I'm sorry, or, you know, that aspect, because a lot of times I've noticed in certain parts of the country that when you go by somebody, it's always, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Once again, that's a self-dialogue that they're saying, right? That they're sorry. They're not really as being apologetic, but it's verbalizing. So think about the things that you're saying as well, that you may not even realize it, that you're not really sorry, but you need to be thankful. And thank that person for giving you common courtesy. Thank that person for giving you respect. You're not being apologetic for being in their way. You're thanking them for that mutual respect. Does that make sense to people? The other thing I want to talk about is physical boundaries. And I'm going to give you this story, and it's if you know me and if you've met me, then you kind of understand like my perspective, because I'm just a hugger. If I see you and we make a connection or you feel open up, I'm going to give you a hug. So a couple of years ago, I was in this workshop in Canada, and the speaker was talking about like being certain distance to people. So what he did was he got a couple up there that was obviously a husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, and he stood there and he said, okay, when I get into a safe distance, just put your hand up, right? And so he had the guy go first, and the guy's hand got up like right away, like, you know, stay away from me, I don't want you anywhere close. And then the girl got like real close, and then she put her hand up when he was really close. And then he goes, okay, go do that with somebody else. And so you have to find two people. Well, there was a ton of women in there, and I was like, I'm just gonna let somebody pick me, because I know when I see somebody, I'm just gonna hug them. And there was like 3 guys or 4 maybe. And so another guy picks me, and I said, do you want to go first? You want me to go first? He goes, you go first. I said, all right, so you start walking to me. He walked and he kept walking, he walked, and he came up and I gave him a big old hug. And then I started walking to him, and he was like, he didn't know to put his hand up. He didn't know what to do. And I got close, and then he hugged me, and he goes, I'm not a hugger. I don't hug people. But he goes, you allowed me to be vulnerable. You allowed me to feel like I should hug people and that I shouldn't be so restricted. And so I give you that analogy and what happened in my life, because a lot of times if you make that first step of being vulnerable, of opening yourself up, of tearing down the walls, tearing down the borders, then the people around you are going to feel more comfortable. They're going to feel more open. It's been known that like people can feel the frequency of your heart. So have you ever like been in a space and it just felt like icky and gross, or maybe it felt okay, but then somebody walks in the room and then the energy goes down or goes up? It's because that heartbeat, your frequency of your heart is actually can go up to like 20 to 30 feet away from you. So people can feel that energy that you're displaying and portraying. So giving yourself the opportunity to be raw, to be vulnerable, to be genuine, to be authentic, allows yourself to begin to love yourself on a whole new level. You're really tearing down a lot of walls. So the journaling questions I'm asking you relate back to that. So you've got to get to the root of what's causing stress. But every single time I ask you to journal, it's going to be why. Why is this creating stress in your life? So, all right. Oops. Give me 1 second here. So now I want you to journal. I'm going to give you a minute on all these. I want to know what makes you feel alive and free and why. So, and I want you to share as well. I'm going to share these with the community. Once again, I won't mention your name, but what really makes you feel alive and free? So to me, it's traveling. This is like that out in Moab. Oh, I forget what it's called. You know, I have a horrible memory, but it's absolutely beautiful out there. And so to me, traveling is one of the biggest things that make me feel alive and free. I feel like when I travel, I'm taking a part of me with me to that new place, but I'm also experiencing things new in a different perspective, and I'm bringing that back with me to wherever my home base is. So if some of you probably don't know my story, but a couple of years ago, my wife and I sold our house and everything in it. Everything that we owned fit in like this 4x6 U-Haul little thing, and we lived in a van for 6 months, and we traveled all over. So go ahead and type in here what makes you feel alive and free, but also why. What is it that makes you just feel so excited about life, that lets everything go, to where you can just be raw, authentic? You know, to me, it's really one of the things that, to me, it's just traveling. That's going to be my number one, traveling. All right, we got our first answer. It's being in nature and having no expectations placed on you for a time. Being alone and not worrying about anything. Yes. You definitely need your self-care, your alone, your me time, right? Nature, traveling, adventures, driving fast. Oh, I'm not surprised from who wrote that. Traveling, nature, specifically road trips, and good company that you can have free and open conversations with. Yeah, with no judgments. I get it. And it makes your soul happy, and stress seems unimaginable. Yeah. Partying with my brothers and sisters. Why I don't have that 20-foot wall up. I can trust them. Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to share? I'm going to give it a couple seconds here. Being with my family, being able to be open and not worrying about the kind of judgment. Blair, can you get that, please? Blair, hang on one second.
Well, all right.
All right, sorry about that, guys. So you've got to kind of get down to the root of that, like why you're feeling good, what makes you motivated, what makes you excited, what does all those things for you, all right? Now, this may be in with the other one as well. Somebody said boxing, riding superbikes, intense weightlifting, cardio. Why? Because it takes total focus and one can think of nothing but being done. Yeah. And then somebody's still working on it. So I want you to spend the next minute on what and where do you find inspiration and why. So some of those may be the same exact answer. It may be nature, it may be working out, it may be all those different things. And then when you're done with that, if you could just start share. The moment an analogy and lesson lands, understanding dawns, the student no longer needs the teacher. The words gel, the characters come to life. This is when I'm the most me and I feel the most connected, and connected is my why. Love it. My kids, find an opportunity to serve and recognize what role it is. Yeah. And so somebody else needs help with finding their inspiration. It's a process, it takes time. A lot of this stuff, when you begin to journal it, you begin to write down what's going on in your life, you're going to begin to understand more about who you are and what makes you tick and what your purpose is. So finding what stresses you out allows you to begin to understand why you need some healthy boundaries, right? Because that stress, you don't have a healthy boundary in your life there. That's your number one red flag. That's your number one thing to go to starting tonight, starting tomorrow, is those big things that cause stress. How can you find healthy boundaries within that scope? Watching my grandchildren learning new things in the simplicity of their lives. Yeah. Somebody says they don't know. They don't know where they find inspiration, and that's okay. I understand. Nature, kids, Broadway shows. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen a Broadway show in so long. And then somebody asked, isn't your inspiration to come within? And that is a yes and no question. That has to do with, yes, you want to be self-motivated and care, but there's going to be other things that are ancillary that you help find inspiration. So for example, I'm going to tell you my story too, that I realized like living in Kansas City in the plaza was everything I ever wanted. I could get on the bus and I could go to the VA hospital. I could walk to go eat food, or I could walk to the grocery store. I could walk and do everything I needed to do. Everything was convenient. But now living in Colorado and Evergreen, it's everything I needed. So your environment, your location, this has allowed me to find completely, totally different inspiration that I didn't even know was there. I didn't realize that the city was so toxic for me. I didn't realize that everything that was going on for me was really not healthy. But now being out here, I can find that contrast. So nature, being mindful, in the wilderness, hearing all the sounds of nature and wildlife, working, and letting dogs. From some family and friends, people from Warriors Descent, something that I was needing and missing. Aw, thanks. Letting dogs. Where do you find inspiration and why? Thank you guys so much for sharing all that. All right. So this is a one that I want you to spend a minute on too. I want to know, what are your dreams, your goals, and your visions? All right. What is it in your life that you want to accomplish? I'm not as goal oriented. I'm more of process oriented. So I'm enjoying the journey, not always the end result. So when I go to a place or I go to visit a place, I used to just do as much as I could all day, every day. And then when I came home from my holiday, my vacation, I needed another holiday and vacation to relax because I overextended myself. And I look back and there were so many things that I did that I don't even remember all of them. So now, like if I go to Yellowstone, I'm gonna pick like one thing out of that day that I wanna see and do, and then two little sub things that I'll go to enjoy on the way there or on the way back. And what that allows me to do is really just be in the moment and be present and not have to feel like I'm always rushing and I'm always going. So when you get this answered, I want you to put once again in the comments, what are some of your dreams, goals, and visions? You know, it could be to travel, it could be finances. You know, some people were kind of concerned about their parenting, like are they doing enough? And those are the people that are probably sometimes doing too much, right? And having healthy boundaries with their kids. So we got about another 30 seconds here. Oh, I like this one. To get a JD degree, to have internal peace that cannot be rocked. That's beautiful. Just to be happy every day in any situation. All of life is just too stressful. Yeah. So we've got to start each and every day fresh, new, whole, and complete, and really begin to find some forgiveness, some acceptance, and unconditional love that'll really help you through this. To be financially secure and to find new passion that is hidden within me. Yeah. So we've got to get to your gifts and your talents. That wrote that. Your gifts and your talents are very unique. Begin to share those with yourself first, then you're going to get comfortable and begin to share those with your community. I want more than anything to find something to be joyful about in all things, good and bad. Yeah. Set that intention for that each and every day. I enjoy traveling, the journey, and don't try to do too much when you're on the journey. Yeah, I love that. I want to publish my own novel, and I want to be nicer to myself because I'm not always, and it holds me back in a lot of places. I love this, guys. This is really great. To be able to wake up in the morning without a mile-long list to do and mind to find just more simplicity. You know, it took me retiring to do that, so hopefully that doesn't take you to that point, but even when I retired, I felt like I was overdoing it. So healthy boundaries are going to really help you set the priorities. All right. My dreams, goals, and visions are to spend more time where I find my inspirations, and the last two lists were almost identical. It's perfect. I'm telling you, journaling through this, understanding this, writing this down is going to help you on so many aspects, all right? To be financially secure and have a new life-changing career, to continue to help others. I love it. Retirement, being productive for myself and others. Okay, perfect. So you know now what your dreams, your goals, and your visions are. What are your excuses? And I want you to spend the next minute writing down what your excuses are for not accomplishing those. And then I want you to share. Got about 10 more seconds. First response is lack of motivation and tools to complete them. The other one is just, I'm angry. It's just angry. Hi. Beautiful. I have to work full time. I need to rest to be ready for work the next day. Oh yeah. Not enough hours in the day. Yeah. All this is going to help you with your healthy boundaries. I can promise you that. My excuses boil down to not being good enough or not having enough time, usually because I'm prioritizing someone else's needs or wants. Yeah. Must be the mother. By the time I'm done with the to-do list, I'm too tired for activity for me. Too much to do. I don't know what I should be doing. I'm busy trying to make ends meet. And then time management and lack of motivation, and don't really know anything but work, 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 and just can't catch up. Okay. So I want to let me look at this real quick. So you can't commit. This is something I really want you to write down. You cannot commit to both your dreams and excuses simultaneously. If your dreams, your vision, your goals are very valid and very important to you, you can't commit to those and your excuses. So you've got to figure out what is truly your priority. What is it in your life you really want to accomplish, and how do you want to get to those dreams, those visions, those goals, right? So the questions, the precursor questions that I asked, right, is the questions that will help you with that, right? What is creating the stress, and why is that stress there, right? What makes you feel alive? What makes you feel free? All of those are the root that are going to get you down to begin to find the healthy boundaries in your life, personally and professionally. So a lot of this has to do with what I'm going to call yoga overall. There's been a lot of studies, a lot of scientific research that yoga actually helps you with self-regulation on all levels. And when you have that self-regulation, then you're going to be able to have a lot better boundaries because you're not going to overextend yourself at any point. So think about, once again, your dialogue and what you're given as an excuse, and if you really want to accomplish those dreams, those goals, and those visions. I'm just reading some of the comments in here. Okay, so the next one is, take the next, like, maybe 30 seconds, not 30 minutes, about 30 seconds, and what's distracting you. And you don't have to share this with the whole group. We're just gonna, I want you to kind of keep this to yourself, because this may be a lot of what was going on before. So the people that have kids and they're so preoccupied with kids, or they're just angry, or they have all these other things going on, this may be really what's going on. But in your own life, mentally, physically, and spiritually, I want you to think of those three different layers, those three different levels. What's distracting you from being present? So what is kind of like either stunning your growth or causing you to regress back a little bit, right? And so is it the fear? Is it the stress? Is it all those different things that are going on within your life? I'm gonna give you about 10 more seconds, and then you can just jot those down. All right. So the reason I'm having you write these down too is because I want you to think about this over the next couple of days or next week. And then if any point at any time you want to reach out to me and have a further discussion, or you have questions, I want you to let you know that I'm here for you, right? And we can continue this further, and we can go even deeper into it. So another thing I know is going to be very helpful is starting next week for the female, we're going to have a female Academy of Healing, and then next month we're going to have a male Academy of Healing. So a lot of this is going to be the groundwork. So do you have a good professional and personal life balance between work and home? Kind of ask those questions in the beginning, but if you want to write it down or answer it in the question, you can feel free to do yes or no. We don't have, you know, any quizzes or anything, but I want you to think about, you know, your work life, personally and professionally. Do you have a good balance? I wish you could see outside, but it is snowing unbelievably beautiful right now. All right. So this is a very big key, that you're not overextending yourself and that you're in the type of career that really serves you, that you aren't working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and it leaves you no energy. It doesn't leave you anything that you need at home for your family or for yourself. So Monday we talked about self-care. So this kind of coincides with that as well, because your self-care routine, you need enough time for yourself to take care of yourself. Your body needs a lot of time to replenish, to heal, to repair, to recover. And if you're not giving yourself that, then a lot of other things become out of balance. Your mind, mentally, physically, spiritually, right? You become sluggish, you begin to gain weight, you begin to lose sleep. You're not as good and productive at work anymore. So really, having this unbalance in your life affects you in a whole completely, totally negative way. Having that balance is going to allow you to be more energetic, to be more understanding, be more empathetic, more vulnerable. So it's one of those things in your life that you can't really put off, right? You can't, either you got to make time for it today, but you may not have the other time in your life to do it, right? So a lot of people in my family, when they go to retire, they say they're going to travel. And physically, they had elements and things. So when they retired, they bought this trailer and it just sits in their driveway for about 5 years and then they end up selling it and they never get to use it, right? So your dreams, your visions, your goals, you need to really begin to accomplish those right now, today, right? Because we don't know what our future holds. We have no idea. So give yourself the opportunity to make sure that your professional and personal life has a very, very good balance. All right, next slide. How can you set healthy boundaries professionally? I want you to journal this, and then we got 10 minutes left. So what I want you to do is go ahead. I want you to feel free to put them in the comments as well, the questions, but I want you just to think about how you can set healthy boundaries professionally. So within your boss. And I'm going to give you an example while you're writing this down. Years ago, I was a contractor at cybersecurity at the USDA, and I went and took a lunch, and I don't know. I think maybe I was gone like an hour and 15 minutes or something. I think I had a doctor's appointment or something. I don't remember exactly. But the point of the story I want to make is that you go through a secure door, then you go through another secure door, and then we're in this room that's pretty big, and then we all had these real large cubicles that we worked in, and I walk in, and the room all the way around is cubicles. And I walk in the room, and our branch chief just starts yelling and cussing at me, asking me why I was late for lunch and why, you know, what was I doing, and this. And I basically just told him off right there. I said, don't ever fucking talk to me like this again, ever. Don't ever talk to me and disrespect me like this ever again. I can walk out that door and never come back in again. So at the time, right, I may have not handled and approached that situation the way I should have, but the office was quiet for about 3 hours and everybody was just typing away and going to town talking about it. But that was the best solution that I could come up with at the point that I'm willing to walk away from this opportunity right now, because I'm not going to allow you to treat me in the manner you are, right? So same thing within your personal life, right? So we're going to talk about that next. See if anybody, all right, I'm going to go to the next one. How can you set healthy boundaries personally? So this is my daughter, oldest daughter that's living with me, my 3 grandkids, and then the other lady down there next to me is my wife. So that's like the majority of the people that are with us. And so how do you have healthy boundaries, and how can you set those personally? And so begin to think about that. So once again, we'll talk about this a lot more next week, but if you're providing a space in your home for respect, unconditional love and acceptance, it's so much easier because people begin to build up resentment and frustration and anger and guilt and all that. But once somebody begins to feel loved and accepted, then they allow themselves to be more vulnerable. So think about how you can set healthy boundaries personally, right? And to make sure that you're respecting and honoring your space, especially when you have 8 people in 1 restroom and 1 house. So, you know, if there's ever a chance or an opportunity for growth, you want to make sure that you're giving that to yourself and the other person, and that you're providing a space where they feel loved and accepted, but you have to give that to yourself. So I always try to give the last 5 minutes for questions, all right? Give me 1 second. So walls keep you blocked, but healthy boundaries are the door that open the path, all right? So a lot of times we have walls or doors, we need to open those up, all right? And then there are also the barriers to your soul. Doors open and they give you an opportunity to allow a path of love. So think about the walls, the barriers, the things that you've built up within yourself and with others. And think about how you can begin to open it up with healthy boundaries. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. And I'm not talking about allowing yourself to be taken advantage of, right? But with a healthy boundary, that's not going to occur. You're going to have enough respect for yourself that when somebody's being disrespectful, that you can counter that in a positive manner. I'm going to read the comments real quick before we go on, just to see what if anybody says anything. I love what everybody has shared. Let me get in here real quick. All right, I'm going to share some of these with you. So we're going back, and this is, there's a lot of fear and anxiety. It's hard to put myself before other people, and that's normal. Feelings of guilt, anger, and insecurity. I feel like my brain is on pause most of the time, too much going on and not able to untangle it all, so I shut it down. And so that has a lot to be with, there's so many factors to that, but being mindful, being present, the food that you're consuming, everything that I talked about on Monday, hopefully you were able to attend that webinar and giving yourself enough time for self-care. You start that journey in this path with all of these topics, I promise you, it will really transform your life. Life's getting better. Foreclosure and distance learning. I didn't bring any work home with me after I left school. Tend to stew on it. Okay. I'm robotic. I have the same routine day and day, go through the motions until I get sleep again. Yeah, once again, try to go back and look at my talk on Monday, and then let's talk again. Let's connect in the next day or so. Not too bad, out of balance. I do get worn out as the week goes on, 10, 11-hour work days, and then stressful commute traffic. Yeah, that's very tough, right? I think for me, the area I need to work on the most with work, home boundaries, investing in something other than teaching and child rearing so that I can put work stuff away. I take my brain with it. I look for a new job if I'm not happy. I don't talk to my family when I'm stressed. I attempt to walk away without conflict. And that's understandable. You want to make sure that you kind of separate yourself and distance yourself from that stress to where you can become calm and collective. I'm going to suggest a book that will really, really help you. If you haven't already saw this, it's called Emotional Intelligence. That book talks a lot about that, about stepping away and finding that balance. I'm training myself to separate myself from toxic family members. It has helped a much, yeah, and it will be challenging due to feeling guilty. I understand, and that's a whole different conversation, and that will be next Wednesday if you can join in. All right, so let's see where we're at. Once again, walls will keep you blocked. You got to tear down those walls. They're the barrier to your soul. All right. We got about 3 minutes. So remember that this healthy boundaries are the doors that open a path and a path to love. Healthy boundaries will truly, truly transform your life and will give you the respect you need in others. So what I want to do is if Mike can go through and turn the audio on for everybody, and then if you want to talk, you can. And the author is Daniel Coleman for that book. So if we can get the audio on so we can ask questions, and just ask that you raise your hand if you have questions before, or if you want to type it, you can type it in here. But we've been at just about an hour.
Yeah, everyone should have the ability to unmute themselves
Okay.
at this point.
You can also just give feedback right now if you want to provide any feedback of what you think. You're going to get an email, I think, after this as well. You can respond to that email. Let me know, what I could do better, what we could spend more time on. We try to keep these to an hour just for time. So does anybody have any questions at all? Any good books on how to find your passion and purpose? I know Mike has suggested books. I don't know if he has those off the top of his head though, but
Passion and purpose. Geez, I'd have to think about that.
There is a book out there called Healthy Boundaries. If you can find the original one, just so you know, it has a lot of Bible verses in there. So if that's not your vibe, you can just kind of skim past it. But the original Healthy Boundaries book is really, really good. And it really kind of helps you understand some of these things in a different context as well. So The Artist's Way is helpful if you're creative. And I don't remember the author's name. So The Artist's Way is a good book. And then good class, great photos, and intentional. Thank you. What's the book Fuck Yourself about? I haven't read that book, so I don't know.
There's another one, Norman Vincent Peale. It's a little bit religious, I think, but The Purpose-Driven Life. I'd be lying if I told you I read it cover to cover. But I mean, in terms of purpose, that is, I think, I'll say, widely read and highly respected book on what the title would imply, the purpose of life. But there are a multitude of, I'm sure, other books out there that get after it in some manner.
My wife suggests Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Your Fear. So Big Magic, Creating Living Beyond Your Fear. Elizabeth Gilbert. Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Your Fear. So Mike, I don't see if you see this question, but the female class that's coming up is going to be the broadcast the same way through a webinar. And how do I get involved? So what I'm going to encourage you to do is go to warriorsascent.org, sign up for that, and it will be female only during those sessions. And that's going to be like a 2-week time frame once again, and that starts on Monday. So just go under there and enroll for the next cohort that starts on Monday. And just go to the website, and there should be a thing right there to apply now. And it is going to be webinar based. I just want to say thank you for continuing to help all of us through these amazing, difficult times. Of course, man, I'm here for you guys. Rick Warren, that's a question mark. I think that's the guy that wrote a book too, right? Is that what that is? Cool. Are the Warriors Ascent Academy online courses all day or each day? So we've got
Here,
the
let
female.
me address this real
Yeah.
fast. So to Tasha, to everybody, just know the format is different for those classes. Some of the topics will be, you know, much like what we're discussing here. There's some where Dr. Leese and the people from KU will preside over them. And they'll use Zoom, and it's HIPAA compliant and a variety of other things. So not every class will be like that, but really what we're going for there is to make it very intimate, much like a cohort. And we're not so much opening that up to a wide audience. Now, Tasha, if you want a roster in time for that, you know, what you'd have to do quickly, you can do that, or we can just get you into the next class. You know, either way, just let me know. Just respond, you know, to the email invite for this. But just know those cohort classes are invite only, you know, because as I'd mentioned, for those of you that have been through the program, that's a little bit more intimate. You know, we want those ladies to kind of bond and coalesce in as much as you can do that over over the airwaves.
Mm-hmm. So Purpose-Driven Life, Tammy, can you help me? Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren is the one they think it is. So
That's Norman Vincent Peale is the purpose-driven.
All right. Yeah, you're more than welcome. One thing I want to tell you is that you cannot see your future connections. So you don't know what your future holds. You don't know those people in your life that you're going to begin to engage in and have this deep, vibrant, healthy, non-toxic, loving, accepting relationship. So don't give up hope. Don't give up doubt. Don't allow fear and all the anxiety to control who you are. Give yourself this opportunity to truly begin to transform, and give yourself this opportunity to ask yourself these questions very frequently to find out what is the root cause and how you can transform and how you can have these healthy boundaries. You know, I can always talk a lot longer, but I really like to keep this stuff as time constrained as possible. So if you have questions, if you have feedback, feel free to reach out to me at any point, at any time. You can call, text, email, or reach out to me. Mike, thank you again for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Love you, brother. I think this is really just a great opportunity to connect with the community. Anything you want to say in closing, Mike?
Yeah, no, appreciate you, brother. You know, appreciate what you do for the community. Everyone loves you. Yeah, we'll continue to do this, everyone. Our next webinar, Monday,
Yes.
April 20th, 7 o'clock, Holistic Methods to Healing. The one after that, Turning Conflict into Intimacy.
Yes.
You know, that next Wednesday. So we hope you've gotten a lot out of these community forums, these webinars, and there will be a survey at the end of this. I would ask, much like the last time, that you fill it out, give us that feedback, and then we'll continue to refine some of this.
Yeah,
So
please give me your feedback on how this went and how I can improve it and what you enjoyed. So love you guys so much. Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you on Monday. Spread the word, please.
Yeah.
And take care. Stay healthy. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, everybody.